In 2013, Associate Professor Dr. Andrew Strauss from the Queensland Museum encountered a discovery that challenged everything scientists believed about ancient life on Earth. What initially appeared to be an ordinary fossil soon revealed itself as something extraordinary, a scorpion fossil, not a few inches long, but nearly as large as a household basin. This was not an isolated anomaly. As further excavations continued, researchers uncovered fossilized remains of spiders as large as cats, cockroaches with unusually long segmented bodies, millipedes comparable in size to large animals, massive anaconda-like reptiles, and dragonfly ancestors with wingspans rivaling those of modern birds. When these fossils were examined using carbon dating and geological analysis, the results stunned the scientific community. These creatures did not belong to the age of dinosaurs. They were far older, dating back hundreds of millions of years to a time when Earth was ruled not by reptiles or mammals, but by insects and arthropods of unimaginable size. Long before dinosaurs ever existed, Earth was a vastly different planet. From space, it would have looked unfamiliar and almost alien. All the continents we recognize today were fused together into a single massive landform, a supercontinent that existed even before Pangea. The planet's surface was harsh and barren, devoid of trees, animals, or any recognizable ecosystems. The land was lifeless, scorched by radiation, and incapable of supporting complex organisms. One of the most critical reasons life could not survive on land during this early era was the absence of a protective ozone layer. Without it, intense ultraviolet radiation from the sun struck Earth's surface directly. Any early attempts at life formation on land were quickly destroyed at the molecular level. Proteins, lipids, and primitive organic compounds simply could not survive long enough to evolve. Yet while the land was hostile, the oceans told a different story. Water acted as a natural shield, protecting early life from harmful radiation. Within these vast primordial seas, simple single-celled organisms began to emerge. These early life forms were incredibly basic, but they possessed one crucial advantage: the ability to adapt. Over time, certain microorganisms evolved the ability to produce energy using sunlight, a process known as photosynthesis. This was a turning point in Earth's history. As a byproduct of photosynthesis, oxygen was released into the water. Slowly, oxygen levels in the oceans increased, and once saturation was reached, oxygen began leaking into the atmosphere. This gradual rise in oxygen changed everything. Oxygen allowed cells to produce far more energy than before, enabling greater complexity. Single-celled organisms slowly evolved into multicellular life forms. Tissues, organs, and eventually specialized biological systems began to appear. Around 530 million years ago, Earth experienced one of the most dramatic biological events in its history, a rapid and unprecedented diversification of life. In a relatively short geological span, the oceans became crowded with a wide variety of organisms. Arthropods, mollusks, sponges, and many unfamiliar creatures emerged almost simultaneously.
Wow.
This phenomenon is known as the Cambrian explosion. For the first time, ecosystems became complex. Predators and prey evolved together, triggering an evolutionary arms race. Defensive shells, sharp claws, improved vision, and mobility all appeared in quick succession. Food chains were established, and survival became a constant struggle. Some of the creatures from this era were enormous. Marine predators reached lengths of nearly 2 meters, making them as large as modern humans. T-rilibits, ancient arthropods resembling horseshoe crabs, thrived in massive numbers, dominating the ocean floor. The seas were alive, dangerous, and teeming with movement. Despite this explosion of life in the oceans, land remained empty for millions of years. Although oxygen levels were rising, the atmosphere was still not safe. Harmful ultraviolet radiation continued to bombard the surface, preventing organisms from making the transition from water to land. This finally changed around 400 million years ago. When oxygen levels became high enough to form a stable ozone layer, for the first time, Earth developed a protective shield that filtered out lethal radiation. This single development opened the door for one of the most important transitions in evolutionary history: life moving from water to land. The earliest pioneers on land were simple organisms such as fungi and moss-like plants. These were soon followed by more complex plants capable of growing upright and transporting water internally. Over time, small plants evolved into massive trees, some exceeding 100 feet in height. Dense forests spread across the planet, transforming Earth's appearance entirely. However, these ancient forests were very different from modern ones. One major difference was the absence of decomposer organisms capable of breaking down wood. When trees died, they did not rot away. Instead, they accumulated in massive quantities, piling up layer upon layer. As time passed, these buried layers were subjected to immense pressure and heat. Over millions of years, they transformed into coal. Much of the coal humans mine and use today originated from these ancient forests, formed long before mammals or birds existed. Fossils from this era reveal another strange detail. Unlike modern trees, fossilized trunks from this period show no growth rings. Growth rings usually form due to seasonal changes, but their absence suggests Earth experienced a stable climate with little to no seasonal variation. The planet was warm, humid, and consistent year-round. These environmental conditions, combined with extremely high oxygen levels reaching up to 35%, compared to today's 21%, created the perfect environment for gigantism. Insects in particular grew to astonishing sizes. Unlike mammals, insects do not have lungs. They breathe through tiny openings in their exoskeletons, allowing oxygen to diffuse directly into their bodies. This system limits size under normal conditions, but when oxygen levels are high, diffusion becomes more efficient. As a result, insects could grow much larger than anything seen today. Giant dragonflies with wingspans over 2 feet ruled the skies, preying on amphibians and smaller creatures. Millipedes reached lengths comparable to horses, slowly roaming forest floors. Fossil evidence even suggests the existence of scorpions over 1 meter long. During this time, insects were not small, fragile creatures, they were dominant life forms. For millions of years, these giants thrived. But Earth's history is shaped by cycles of growth and destruction. Eventually, this age of giants came to an abrupt and devastating end. Massive tectonic movements triggered widespread volcanic eruptions across the planet. These eruptions released enormous quantities of sulfur dioxide and other gases into the atmosphere. The gases combined with water vapor to form sulfuric acid, which fell back to Earth as acid rain. Oxygen levels plummeted, global temperatures fluctuated wildly, and ecosystems collapsed. This event became one of the most severe mass extinctions in Earth's history. Nearly 95% of all living organisms were wiped out. As always, size became a disadvantage. Large creatures required more oxygen and energy to survive, making them especially vulnerable. Smaller organisms, however, found ways to endure. They hid underground, adapted to changing conditions, and survived in isolated ecological niches. These survivors laid the foundation for future life. Over time, evolution resumed its slow but relentless march forward. New species emerged, ecosystems rebuilt themselves, and the planet entered another chapter of its long and complex story. Long before dinosaurs dominated the land, Earth had already undergone extreme transformations. Entire worlds had risen and fallen. From lifeless rock to oceans filled with microbes, from insect-ruled forests to near-total extinction, the planet reshaped itself again and again. The story of life on Earth is not a straight path, but a series of experiments, failures, and rebirths. From simple molecules to complex organisms, life evolved against overwhelming odds. These ancient giants, now reduced to fossils, remind us that dominance is temporary, but life itself is remarkably resilient.